Hi, I'm Nick with History Explained, and today we're going to be talking about what the D-Day landings were like for every side. Starting with the United States, the U.S. airborne landings began with the arrival of Pathfinders at 0:15. Navigation was difficult because of a bank of thick cloud, and as a result, only one of the 5 paratrooper drop zones was accurately marked with radar signals and Aldous lamps. Paratroopers of the U.S. 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions, numbering over 13,000 men, were delivered by Douglas C-47 Skytrains of the 9 Troop Carrier Command. To avoid flying over the invasion fleet, the planes carried and arrived men from the west over the Cotentin Peninsula and exited over Utah Beach. Paratroopers from the 101st Airborne were dropped beginning around 1:30. Tasks concluded controlling the causeways behind Utah Beach and destroying road and rail bridges over the Douave River. The C-47s could not fly in tight formation because of a thick cloud cover, and many paratroopers were dropped far from intended landing zones. Many planes came in so low that they were under fire from both flak and machine gun fire. Some paratroopers were killed on impact when their parachutes did not have time to open, and others drowned in the flooded fields. Gathering together into fighting units was made difficult by a shortage of radios by the bocage terrain, and its hedgerows, stone walls, and marshes didn't make it easier. Some units did not arrive at their targets until afternoon, by which several of the causeways had already been cleared by the members of the 4th Infantry Division moving up from the beach. Troops of the 82nd Airborne began arriving around 2:30, with the primary objective of capturing the 2 bridges completed almost, but not quite, as, destroying the 2 bridges over the Douave. They were tasked with it, but it was not an easy task. On the east side of the river, 75% of the paratroopers landed in or near the drop zone, and within 2 hours they captured the important crossroads of Sainte-Mère-Église, the first town liberated in the invasion, and began working to protect the western flank. Because of the failure of the Pathfinders to accurately mark their drop zone, the 2 regiments dropped on the west side of the Mer d'Alais were extremely scattered and with only 4% landing in the target area. Many landed in nearby swamps with much loss of life. Paratroopers consolidated into small groups, usually a combination of men of various ranks from different units, and attempted to concentrate on nearby objectives. They captured but failed to hold the Mer d'Alais River Bridge at Lafayette, and fighting for crossing continued for several days. Reinforcements arrived by glider around 4 o'clock in the morning, Mission Chicago and Mission Detroit, and around 9 o'clock p.m., Mission Keokuk and Mission Elmira, bringing additional troops and heavy equipment like the paratroopers. Many landed far from their drop zones, and even those that had landed on target experienced difficulty with heavy cargo such as jeeps shifting during landing, crashing through the wooden fuselage, and in some cases crushing personnel on board. After 24 hours, only 2,500 men, of the 101st and 2,000 of the 82nd Airborne under the control of their divisions. Approximately a third of the force dropped. This wide dispersal had the effect of confusing the Germans and fragmenting their response. The 7th Army received notification of the paratroop drops at 1:20 in the morning, but Rundstedt did not initially believe that a major invasion was underway. The destruction of radar stations along the Normandy coast a week before the invasion meant that the Germans did not detect the approaching fleet until 2 o'clock in the morning. For the Canadians and the British, the first Allied invasion D-Day was Operation Dead Stick, a glider assault at 12:16 in the morning at Pegasus Ridge over the Caen Canal and the bridge, since renamed Horsa Bridge, over the Orne, half a mile to the east. Both bridges were quickly captured intact, with light casualties by members of the 5th Parachute Brigade and the 7th Light Infantry Parachute Battalion. The 5 bridges over the Dives were destroyed with minimal difficulty by the 3rd Parachute Brigade. Meanwhile, the Pathfinders tasked with setting up radar beacons and lights for further paratroopers, scheduled to begin arriving at 12:50 a.m. to clear the landing zones north of Ranville, were blown off course and had to set up the navigation aids too far east. Many paratroopers, also blown too far east, landed far from their intended drop zones. Some took hours or even days to be reunited with their units. Major General Richard Gale arrived in the third wave of gliders at 3:30 a.m., along with equipment such as anti-tank guns and jeeps and more troops to help secure the area from counterattacks, which were initially staged only by troops in the immediate vicinity of the landings. At 2 p.m., the commander of the German 716th Infantry Division ordered Fichtinger to move his 21st Panzer Division into position to counterattack. However, as the division was part of the Armored Reserve, Fichtinger was obliged to seek clearance from OKW before he could commit his formation. Fichtinger did not receive orders until nearly 9 p.m., but in the meantime, on his own initiative, he put together a battle group, including tanks, to fight the British forces east of the Orne River. Only 160 men out of the 600 members of the 9th Battalion tasked with eliminating enemy battery at Millville arrived at the rendezvous point. Lieutenant Colonel Terence Otway, in charge of the operation, decided to proceed regardless, and as the emplacement had to be destroyed by 6 p.m. to prevent it firing on the invasion fleet and the troops arriving at Sword Beach, this resulted in the Battle of Merville Gun Battery, and Allied forces disabled the guns with plastic explosives at a cost of 75 casualties. The emplacement was found to contain 75mm guns rather than the expected 155mm heavy coastal artillery, and Otway's remaining force withdrew with the assistance of the few members of the 1st Canadian Paratroop Battalion. With this action, the last of the D-Day goals of the British 6th Airborne Division was achieved. They were reinforced at 12 p.m. by commandos of the 1st Special Service Brigade, who landed on Sword Beach, and by the 6th Air Landing Brigade, who arrived in gliders at 2100 at Operation Mallard. And that, history fans, is what happened and what it looked like for the people, for the sides, for the paratroopers only. Next time, we'll be talking about the actual invasion and what happened and how chaotic it was. I'll see you next time, and until then, I'm Nick with History Explained.